Here is my presentation on hurricanes. This is a beautiful hurricane picture taken from space. You can see the eye of the hurricane right here. That is an area where air is sinking. Air is actually rising all around the rest of the hurricane. So once again, you can see that in the eye of the storm, air is sinking and air is rising everywhere else. So a hurricane is caused by hot ocean water. And that's very important to know, is the cause of a hurricane. The fuel is hot water. So basically, once a hurricane moves off of hot water, once it moves onto land, it's going to die. Hurricanes fade out pretty quickly after they move off of the ocean. And I think that's about all to know for that. I guess one other thing is that hurricanes are going to be found where the ocean is very hot. So with global warming, we can expect the ocean to actually get warmer, which would strengthen hurricanes in the future. So that's something to look forward to. There's a video here of some guys that work for the National Weather Service flying an airplane into a hurricane. And they actually go into the eye, and you can see what it would look like to fly into the eye of a hurricane. It's worth watching. Hurricanes spin because of the Coriolis effect. In the northern hemisphere, hurricanes spin around counterclockwise. In the southern hemisphere, they actually spin clockwise. So that is always true. By the way, in class, I went over the fact that toilets are not affected by this. Your toilet spins whichever direction the jets come out of the toilet. Coriolis effect is not strong enough to affect the spin of toilet water. That would be absurd. So hurricanes transfer heat away from the equator, and they help to keep the planet kind of at a stable temperature. So when it gets really hot near the equator, hurricanes will basically try to take that heat away from the equator towards the poles. Notice from this diagram that hurricanes happen in the northern hemisphere. They also happen in the southern hemisphere. But there do seem to be more hurricanes in the northern hemisphere. As best as I can tell, that is because of the shape of the continents. You can see the way that both Asia and North America kind of curve around in a shape that seems to help steer hurricanes in the direction that they go in. So I do believe that the shape of the continents affects the patterns that we see with hurricanes. Notice that there are a lot less hurricanes in the southern hemisphere. I'm not totally sure why that would be, but it is true. There are no hurricanes on the equator. The reason for that is that there's no Coriolis effect on the equator. If you had a hurricane try to form right on the equator, it wouldn't know which way to spin. And if it's not spinning, it's just going to die out. Hurricanes need to spin to strengthen. And these are the paths of all the hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean since we've been recording them. You'll notice that hurricanes go all over the place. However, there are patterns. Generally, a lot of them start near the equator off the coast of Africa. They tend to drift west as they follow the trade winds, which blow from Africa to the Americas. Eventually, they kind of start drifting north. And once they start turning north, they start turning right because of the Coriolis effect and because of the westerlies that blow from west to east up here once you get up to about Florida. So hurricanes start out down here, they go west, they come up towards the U.S., and they turn off to the east. Look how Florida just gets crushed by these things quite regularly. So if you build down in Florida, you got to be prepared for hurricanes. Hurricanes move with the wind like leaves float down a stream wherever the current is going. So if you got a hurricane and you want to figure out where it's going to go, you just got to figure out where the wind is blowing. Hurricanes do not drive themselves. They just float along with the atmosphere. If you want to watch this YouTube clip, fast forward to 8 minutes, and it gives you some good information about how hurricanes kind of form in Africa and then drift towards the United States. These are just some technical characteristics about like the different categories of storms. There are 5 categories of hurricane. 1 is the weakest, 5 is the strongest. At the end of class, we did an assignment where everybody was assigned a hurricane, and given coordinates for that storm. And you basically had to make a map following these instructions right here. On my calendar, there are coordinates for a storm, and you can print out a map and go ahead and do this project. Just make sure you read through these instructions. You need to mark the highlighted coordinates. You need to code the storm based on its strength, whether it was a depression, tropical storm, or a hurricane. And you will need a key to indicate the difference between storm strengths. They have done all of these things on this map down here, so you can use this as an example. You need to connect all of the dots chronologically, and you need to include the name of the storm and the date of the storm as your title. And that was all. So that is the end of that presentation. Let me know if you got any questions. Have a good day.